I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. We start off by taking a look at your headlines for tonight. People of Mathura battered by adverse weather for weeks. GMOA meets the President. Solutions to be provided via budget. Medical Supplies Division rejects NMRA stance on the non-existent supplier that entered the state medical supply system. President Ranil Wickremesinghe to leave for China. Bondholders send debt rework proposal to government. Northern Gaza given 24 hours to evacuate. TV1 and TNL join hands to broadcast ICC Cricket World Cup 2023. In your top story tonight, several areas across the Mathura district have been inundated for over 3 weeks. Now, water levels of the Nilvala River, which rose due to the heavy showers in the country, are now beginning to slowly recede.
News First has continued to highlight the reasons behind this issue. Today, we take a look at how the people of Mathura have been affected by this.
This is the Dalkada village in Kurunduwatta, Mathura. The village has been inundated for about 3 weeks. The drainage systems of the houses have overflown, leaving the area inundated with contaminated water.
වතුර පිරීලා ඉතින් මේ ඇල බහින්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ගානක් පරණ වෙලා වතුර ඔක්කොම කුණු වෙලා මේ වුණ කියලා මිනිස්සු බයයි.
බහින්නේ නැහැ අර පැත්තේ අර තුම්මෝදර කියන එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ පොඩි කටක් තියෙන්නේ. ඒකෙන් බහින්න විදියක් නැහැ.
The village is left with only a handful of residents. The rest have sought temporary shelter in other areas.
මේ ගමේ මිනිස්සු හැමතැනම ගෙවල් වල අරේ මේ නෑදෑ ගෙවල් වල ඉන්නේ. ඉතින් ගෙවල් වලට එන්න විදියක් නැහැ. කන්න බොන්න නැහැ. කිසිම කෙනෙක් බලන්න එන්නේ නැහැ. තව සති දෙකකටවත් එන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒවයි টয়ලට් උතුරලා සේරම ඒව මේ වතුරත් එක්ක මේ වෙලා එහෙ මදුරුවෝ.
The people of Nadugala Tudava have been seeking shelter near the Nadugala Protective Bund for the 12th consecutive day. Among them are students set to sit for the Grade 5 scholarship examination this Sunday. The Veragampitia village in Mathura is home to about 140 families. The village has been inundated for over 2 weeks. The villagers are now fighting the chances of being infected by multiple diseases that can be caused by these conditions.
ටැංකි වගේ ඔක්කොම මේ හරියම ගෙවල් තුල පිරීලා මේ ඒ විදියටම තියෙනවා දැන් දවස් 15ක් විතර වෙතට වෙනවා.
වෙනද නම් මෙහෙම බහැලා යනවා. මේ සැරේ මේ හොඳටම මේ පිළිලා තියෙනවා බහින්නේ නැහැ වතුර. දැන් මේ ආයෙ වතුර වැඩි වේගෙන එනවා.
The people of Veragampitia are seeking shelter near the Matukala Bund.
පිළිසරණ කළා නෑනේ මේ හද්ද කැලයක් නෙමෙක තියෙන්නේ. ඒකට එළියකට බහින්න බෑ. පුංචි ළමයි ඉන්නවා. අපේ මේ හරිය සෑහෙන මිනිස්සු දුක් විඳිනවා ඉතින් මේ වතුර ප්‍රශ්න නිසා.
ගේ යතුරු වතුර වැසිකිලි යන්නේ මෙන්න මේ අනාර ගෙදරට. යන්න තැනක් නෑ අපිට වැසිකිලි. අපි ඒක නිසා කන්නේත් අඩුවේ. ඉන්න තැනක් නැති කමට තමයි මෙහෙම අපි දුක් විඳින්නේ.
The Mathura District Secretary Y. Wickremesinghe says that the water levels are beginning to recede. He says that steps have been taken to bring the situation back to normalcy.
මේ දවස් දෙකේ දැඩි වර්ෂාපතනයක් නොලැබුණු නිසා සෑම ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම් කොට්ටාසයකම පාහේ මේ වෙනකොට ගම් වතුර බැස යමින් පවතිනවා.
We haven't experienced heavy showers in the last few days. Water levels across all divisional secretariats have begun to recede. However, some areas remain inundated. We have to repair the drainage systems and some roads and provide relief to the people. We are doing everything we can to bring the situation back to normalcy.
සකස් කර දීම සහ ඊට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු හැකීක්පනින් උත්සාහ කරනවා ජන ජීවිතය යථා තත්ත්වයට පත් කරලා කරන්න පුළුවන් කටයුතු ටික කරන්න.
The Panadugama water gauge of the Nilvala River was at 6.41 meters this evening. The water levels are slowly beginning to recede. Approval was granted to remove the salinity barrier in Piladuwa, Mathura, but that is not an easy task. The Sri Lanka Army Corps of Engineers have been working hard day and night. However, the project is still in its initial stage. Is it possible to complete this project soon and bring the situation back to normalcy? Do the people have to bear the burden of this situation until the issue is resolved? Aren't short-term and long-term solutions to this issue a vital responsibility of the authorities. The people of Mathura have been affected by the adverse weather conditions for weeks, while 7 ministers and parliamentarians representing the Mathura district are in active politics. Speaker Mahinda Yapabewardena, Minister Kanchana Wijesekara, MP Karunadasa Kodituwakko, MP Nipuna Ranawaka, MP Dalasalaha Peruma, MP Buddhika Patirana, MP Veerasumana Veerasinghe were elected to power with the votes of the people of the Mathura district. Are these politicians incapable of providing a solution to their people who have been affected by this situation? The Met Department predicts that Sri Lanka will experience heavy showers from tomorrow. Showers or thunder showers will occur over most parts of the country tonight. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Uva, central and eastern provinces. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organization extended the landslide warnings to several areas across 10 districts this afternoon.
The Israeli army has issued an ultimatum for 1.1 million Palestinians in the northern Gaza Strip to leave their homes and evacuate in the region within 24 hours. Now, according to foreign media, Israeli forces appear to be massing for an invasion of the northern Gaza Strip at the end of the 24-hour period.
Emmanuel Fabian, the military correspondent of the Times of Israel, has uploaded footage of the Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip last night. The Times of Israel reports that 700 targets in the Gaza Strip were attacked like this last night alone. Israel has declared a state of war and is retaliating fiercely against the attack by the Hamas organization that raided Israel last Saturday. The Times of Israel further reports that Israeli forces are carrying out continuous attacks targeting Hamas and its supporters in the Gaza Strip. The newspaper has stated that the Israel Defense Forces will enter the northern Gaza Strip across land as soon as the 24-hour deadline comes to an end. Due to Israel-Hamas war conflicts, a humanitarian crisis is currently being created in the Gaza Strip, and according to the estimates of United Nations, 340,000 people have already been displaced. According to the United Nations statistics, 1,300 people in southern Israel have lost their lives in the series of attacks that Hamas launched into Israel, and nearly 200 people have been held hostage by Hamas. Foreign media say that in the past few days, more than 2,800 lives from both the parties have been lost. Reacting to the time Israel gave the people of northern Gaza, the United Nations pointed out that such a process could not be followed without devastating humanitarian consequences. The United Nations has also requested for the order to be cancelled without making the current tragedy much worse. In the meantime, the World Health Organization says that the humanitarian aid is essential at the Gaza Strip. On Friday, the Foreign Ministry and the National Security Council issued a warning to Israelis around the world to pay extra attention to their security. The request mentioned to take this step since the Hamas organization has declared Friday as a day of anger.
I want to give her a hug.
Explosions rumbled through the night after Israel declared war on Hama, Palestinian enclave that, for years, has been under Israeli blockade. The last
Hamas as being somewhat more reasonable and more of a partner than some other elements within Palestinian society.
Currently, India has also commenced an operation to rescue Indians living in Israel. India has named it as Operation Ajay. Accordingly, the Indian authorities took steps to evacuate 212 Indians from Israel on its first flight to India. The Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel says that currently there is no need to repatriate the Sri Lankans there. 90% of the laborers have come to Israel after entering into contracts to look after elders. This is a time of war. We are bound to protect the lives of those elders. There are many students here from neighboring countries. Most of them are either students and those who are employed in the field of IT. They can get a flight and leave here, but the situations of the Sri Lankans are different to that. Up to now, we didn't receive any requests from any Sri Lankans asking to go back to Sri Lanka. Even today, there are flight services operating from the international airport to the Asian region. But if someone needs to fly back to Sri Lanka, then they can purchase a ticket from a transit airport to Sri Lanka. The ambassador also noted that Sri Lankans in Israel are under observation. The President of Israel made a special statement about the injured and missing people yesterday. According to the report, more than 200 foreigners from 36 countries have lost their lives. All the Sri Lankans here were made aware of the situation all over the country. I have been trying to contact the Sri Lankan nurses in the northern region since 2 in the morning. I left several messages for them on social media. Also, there are some of our social activists in the northern region and we also contacted them. Especially today, we are receiving news that there is a risk of an attack on the northern region, especially from the neighboring country. A large number of Israeli forces have been stationed in that region. There is no need to be afraid. Israel has a very strong army.
දානවත් තියෙනවා එක ඉස්රායල් හමුදාව ස්ථානගත කරලා තිබෙනවා ඒ කලාපයේ විශාල පිරිසක්. ඔවුන්ට සැකයක් ඇති කර ගැනීමට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. ඊටමත් ශක්තිමත් හමුදාවක් ඉස්රායලයේ තිබෙන්නේ.
News first with the people. News first with the people.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe will be visiting China next week. Foreign media reported that the president's stay in China will be from the 15th to the 19th of October. The president will be attending the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing. Discussions will also be held regarding the domestic debt restructuring between the president and the Chinese government.
Speaking at a media briefing held at the Presidential Media Center today, State Minister of Investment Promotion Diluma Munugama answered journalists' question on the president's visit to China.
President China visit එකේ හම්බන්තොට ප්‍රදේශයේ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් ගැන ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් සයින් කරන්න ඉන්නවා කියලා වාර්තා වෙනවා.
ප්‍රොජෙක්ට්ස් වලට ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් ජනාධිපතිතුමා අසං කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක අසං කරනවා අසං කරන්නේ BOI එකට විතරයි.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ විසිට් එකේ හිම හම්බන්තොට ප්‍රදේශයේ චයිනා ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකක් ගැන ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් සයින් කරන්න
නෑ දැන් අපි එතන නොයෙකුත්
No, we can sign many MOUs regarding that zone. We will definitely hold discussions regarding further development and investments in the Hambantota area. I was in China last week and the matter was also discussed. With Japan, we have come to somewhat of an agreement to open a Japan-Sri Lanka free trade zone.
Japan Sri Lanka free trade zone එකක් අපි ආරම්භ කරන්න ලංකාවෙන්.
The Chinese research vessel Xi'an 6 is currently sailing towards Sri Lanka, close to the exclusive economic zone. Attention was drawn to the ship when India focused on its journey to Sri Lanka. The Chinese ship was scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka on the 25th of October. But Indian media has reported that the Sri Lankan government had requested China to reschedule the arrival of the ship in Sri Lanka after the president's visit to China. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the diplomatic agreement for the ship to arrive in Sri Lanka was announced last November.
According to a Reuters report, Sri Lanka's private creditors have sent a proposal on how to restructure $12 billion of overseas debt, including a new type of bond designed to ease repayments in case of future economic pressure. The proposal, sent on the 2nd of October, provides a write-down or haircut on both capital and interest, added the sources who declined to be named because the talks are private. It foresees issuance of regular sovereign bonds and also of so-called macro-linked bonds, which will automatically lower coupon payments starting in 2027 if Sri Lanka fails to meet some of the economic targets linked to its International Monetary Fund program. Reuters reported that representatives for the government did not respond to a request for comment. A spokesperson representing the creditor committee did also not reply to a request for comment. One of the sources said the overall proposal includes an option for creditors that combines MLB notes with a regular bond and a second option of regular bonds with a value recovery instrument. The sources said the macro-linked bonds were included to ensure the new instruments would be index eligible.
Krishna Srinivasan, the director of the Asia Pacific Department of the IMF, said that if private creditors have put forward a proposal, it is up to Sri Lankan officials and advisors to consider it, and the IMF role is to see if any kind of agreement is consistent with the program.
Now, News First, Zulfiq Farzan, who is in Morocco for the IMF World Bank annual meeting, reports.
Zulfiq Farzan from News First, MTV, MBC Networks, Sri Lanka. Two questions to you. First is, Sri Lanka is on the road to recovery and this journey is very slow, and there is growing concern among the masses that the massive price hikes that the government has imposed. Now, the IMF proposed that cost-reflective adjustments need to be made, and the masses believe that the state is abusing this recommendation. Can you give your thoughts on that? And secondly, just this week, China's Exim Bank reached an agreement with Sri Lanka for its debt arrangement. However, it is said that this pact will take time to materialize. What are your thoughts on this as well, and will it not affect the second tranche release and the staff level agreement as well as the board approval? Thank you.
On your first question, we fully sympathize and understand the hardship faced by people in terms of falling wages, cost of living increases, and so on. And we are fully sympathetic to that. But again, the program, we do have, prices reflecting cost recovery. And why is that important? It's important because otherwise the electricity sector faces losses, and that becomes a public problem down the road. So you have to have cost recovery. I think that's important. You also don't want to provide, subsidies to everyone. It should be more progressive. And here we believe that targeted support to the poor and vulnerable is the way to go. But going beyond just the immediate thing, I think the energy sector efficiency in the energy sector, in the electricity sector, could be increased through structural reforms. And in general, SOE reforms are important in Sri Lanka, and that's part of the program we have, where the IMF working with the World Bank is pushing ahead with reforms to SOEs, including in the electricity sector. But I think that's the way to look at it. On your second question, I would say that as part of the review, what will be required will be financing assurances. In that context, we will look to see how much progress is being made on debt restructuring efforts, and if there are any agreements how do they square with the debt targets and so on. So it's part of the process of the second review. So you talked about one creditor, but the financial review will look at what restructuring efforts are being other creditors, including the private creditors, the OCC, and so on. We don't get involved in these debt restructuring efforts between creditors and the debtor. So if private creditors have put forward a proposal which includes GDP-linked bonds, that's for Sri Lankan authorities and their advisors to engage with them to see. Our role comes in terms of to see how any kind of agreement is consistent with the debt targets and consistent with debt restructuring exercise in the macro framework. Your second question was on the macro framework. Again, anytime we have a review, we assess the macroeconomic framework in a very holistic way.
The G20 finance ministers and central bank governors have welcomed all efforts for timely resolution of the debt situation of Sri Lanka and the ongoing progress, and called for its swift conclusion as soon as possible. This was announced following the 4th G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco, that took place on the 12th and 13th of October. A G20 communiqué noted that the finance ministers and central bank governors encouraged the efforts of the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable participants to strengthen communication and foster a common understanding among key stakeholders both within and outside the common framework for facilitating effective debt treatment. The G20 finance ministers and central bank governors have also appreciated the efforts of the International Financial Architecture Working Group in taking forward the work on the debt agenda, including the preparation of G20 note on the global debt landscape. They also welcome the joint efforts by all stakeholders, including private creditors, to continue working towards enhancing debt transparency. The International Monetary Fund has said that for emerging markets and developing economies like Sri Lanka that are suffering from fund stress on external markets, faster and more efficient coordination on debt resolution is needed. It added that with public debt still high across most of the region, the ongoing gradual fiscal consolidation should continue to build room for maneuver and to ensure debt sustainability. In a statement, the IMF said that Asia continues to fuel global growth, but economic momentum is slowing. It also noted that the region is likely to see faster disinflation, but prospects for growth in coming years are dimming.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that Sri Lanka's debt treatment program is moving at a faster pace compared to the programs implemented in other countries.
This is Zulfikar Farzan from News First, MTV-MBC, Sri Lanka. My question is to the Minister. There is concern over the G20 common framework on debt restructuring. Concerns are growing that the progress is too slow. So for countries like Sri Lanka that are struggling with debt, what kind of measures are in place to ensure expeditious debt restructuring? And also, is there any discussion for a regional bloc to be formed or any sort of consensus on a regional level to address the issues in low-income countries like Sri Lanka and others? Thank you.
Was a middle-income country. COVID and many things else afterwards, it became a low, probably. It's on the verge of becoming a low income. And the crisis which came to Sri Lanka could not be addressed by the common framework because it was a middle income country. It couldn't qualify to be addressed in the common framework. So it was outside of the common framework. And I think compared to many others, the speed with which Sri Lanka is getting its resolution through the IMF is very good, in fact speedy, compared to many others who are under the common framework. I'm not passing a judgment on the common framework versus others, but in general there is today in IMF and very many other institutions a realization that it has to be speedier, and Sri Lanka's resolution is happening speedier. In fact, if I would want to draw your attention, the very formation of the creditor committee through a sovereign debt round table, which the IMF together with the World Bank under the India presidency with us also co-chairing it, addressed the issue of Sri Lankan debt crisis. And today that probably will stand as a template for any other country in the future. So it is moving, I would think, per the formula and speedily. It can be speedier is a different story, but the fact is it is much speedier handled now.
Finance ministers and central bank governors of the G7 countries have accepted the proposals made by the official creditors regarding Sri Lanka's bilateral debt. This decision was taken at the annual meeting of the IMF and the World Bank in Morocco. They hope that the proposals will be implemented soon.
Middle-income country, Sri Lanka, that is. The restructuring for Sri Lanka is outside of the common framework of G20. Therefore, Japan, Germany, and India, Japan, France, and India became the co-chairs. Japan, France, and India serve as co-chairs to establish and we have started a new framework. In the beginning of this year, we already had a meeting. That awareness is shared amongst G7. Therefore, based on the shared understanding, we are to push ahead with this initiative. So that it was welcomed and supported. There are different discussions that are underway. As far as Japan is concerned, we place much importance on transparency. Who has how much debt? Who has how much credit? Stakeholders should be able to share such information. And this such comment I made during the meeting.
Meanwhile, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed concerns over the amended anti-terrorism bill and the online security bill.
UN Human Rights spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani has expressed serious concerns over Sri Lanka's anti-terrorism bill and the online safety bill, which give the authorities a range of expansive powers and can impose restrictions on human rights not in line with international human rights laws. In a statement, she said that restrictions to the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly are very likely. She said that the anti-terrorism bill still includes an overly broad definition of terrorism and grants wide powers to the police and to the military to stop, question and search and to arrest and detain people with inadequate judicial oversight. According to the statement, many sections of the online safety bill contain vaguely defined terms and definitions of offences, creating an environment that has a chilling effect on freedom of expression.
Tonight, News First files another special report on the non-existent supplier who entered the state medical supply system using a stock of human immunoglobulin.
Human immunoglobulin is a drug manufactured with human blood. The drug was imported to Sri Lanka using forged documents. The State Pharmaceuticals Corporation had purchased 22,500 vials of human immunoglobulin and distributed 3,000 vials to the Medical Supplies Division of the Ministry of Health. Several patients at multiple hospitals who were administered the drug had developed complications. Upon testing the stock of human immunoglobulin, it was revealed that the drug was not up to the standard. In subsequent investigations, it was also discovered that the drug was imported using the provisions of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority Act to deregister. The company which imported this drug had submitted documents claiming that they received permission to deregister by the NMRA. However, the NMRA said that the document submitted claiming that permission was received for this import was forged. The NMRA refused to bear responsibility for the issue and instead pointed the finger at the Medical Supplies Division.
The NMRA doesn't have any authority nor any connection to purchase drugs. Several doctors are making statements in public. Don't they know the basic fact that the NMRA doesn't import medicine? What can the NMRA do if the documents are forged?
The Medical Supplies Division responded to the matter today. Deputy Director General of the Medical Supplies Division, Dr. D.R.K. Herath, said the NMRA is not aware of the matter, has no connection to it, nor can it comment on it. The NMRA is the sole entity in Sri Lanka empowered to regulate medicine and medical equipment. The NMRA is responsible for ensuring the safety, quality and efficacy of all drugs that enter the country. The drug can only enter the state medical supply system following technical evaluations, tenders and procurement processes. How did the human immunoglobulin pass this extensive process? Is this process carried out without notifying the NMRA? According to the Deputy Director General of the Medical Supplies Division, the Secretary to the Ministry of Health had directed the instructions and relevant documents of the tender process to the NMRA. In addition to these processes, the drug is also subject to a customs inspection before entering Sri Lanka. The Deputy Director General of the Medical Supplies Division said that the human immunoglobulin entered the country via the port. When a drug is imported into Sri Lanka via its ports, it is mandatory that all the relevant documents is entered to the Asikuda system, a computerized customs management system that covers foreign trade procedures. Importing medicines into a country is not a simple matter. The Asikuda system holds limited access with a password shared with the NMRA. The NMRA is given the power to approve or reject the drugs or even instruct the authorities to store the drugs. According to Sri Lanka Customs, a drug cannot enter the country without the approval of the NMRA. If so, how did such a drug enter the state medical supply system? CEO of the NMRA, Dr. Vijit Gunasekara, said he is unable to confirm if the drug was authorized using his password to the Asikuda system. The NMRA has requested the Sri Lanka Customs to investigate the matter. How can the authorities point fingers at each other so irresponsibly at the cost of the people's lives and government's funds? How did the human immunoglobulin enter the state medical system? Who is responsible for this move? The address of this company cannot be located as well.
අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට පැමිණිල්ලක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ පැමිණිල්ලට දැන් දවස් 10ක් ගත වෙලා තියෙනවා. නමුත්
It has been 10 days since a complaint was filed with the Criminal Investigation Department. We have not been notified on any developments of this case. It is important that the owner of this company is located. The document has the seal of a designation, the government body, and the address. It has the person's qualifications but is missing the person's name. About 50 people have used this document, considering it to be normal. How can such irresponsible decisions be made, risking the lives of these people?
අරගෙන ඒක සාමාන්‍ය තත්වයක් කියලා හිතාගෙන 50 දෙනෙක් විතර මේක හරහා කටයුතු කරලා මේ රටේ මිනිස්සුන්ට මරණාසන්න තත්වයක් ඇති විය හැකි ඖෂධයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් කොහොමද තීරණ ගන්නේ?
The Ministry of Health has also sought the advice of the Attorney General over the matter. The government institutes under the Health Ministry are pointing fingers at each other. This leaves the people of Sri Lanka confused. This move has put the lives of the people of our country at risk. Can a country's health system afford to operate at this state?
The Criminal Investigation Department has presented facts to the Malika Kanda Magistrates Court today regarding the complaint filed by the Professional Forum of Physicians on Medical and Civil Rights in relation to the purchase of human immunoglobulin.
After the CID presented the evidence to the Malika Kanda Court today, the court ordered a conclusive report regarding the matter to be presented to the Director General of the Health Ministry and for an inquiry to be carried out by the National Medicines Regulatory Authority.
The Executive Council of the Government Medical Officers Association met with the President this afternoon and discussed the problems faced by the doctors, including salaries and taxes. Officials of the Finance Ministry and health officials had attended this meeting with the President, held at the President's office. Doctors had discussed about the brain drain and the health crisis with the President.
We presented written material with a number of proposals, primarily on how to achieve economic justice for doctors by targeting the 2024 budget. All of that was handed over to the President today. The President took all of that very seriously. He said that he is of the position that a mandatory solution to this problem should be provided through the budget. The President specifically stated that we will be informed in the future regarding the financial situation of the Ministry of Finance and how the changes will be made. Also, there has been some agreement and approval in the Cabinet meeting yesterday, especially regarding additional duty allowances and following a flexible policy regarding those allowances. We have decided to take the final decision on how far we will take the agitation measures with the responses we will receive in the Central Committee meeting on the 25th of October.
The Government Medical Officers Association met with former President, leader of the SOPP, Mahinda Rajapaksa, and discussed this before meeting with the President.
The Federation of University Teachers Association met the President this afternoon and discussed the problems they are facing. We explained a lot of things to him. We explained how difficult it is to run the university system. We told him how many positions have become vacant due to the brain drain. We believe that the government sees the importance to protect the university system of this country. We hope that the government will take some positive steps with the budget to prevent university teachers from leaving the country. The problem here is that the President shows great sympathy for all parties in the university system regarding their plight, but yet no solution has been provided. We made it very clear that we need a prompt solution for this issue, or else it will lead to the destruction of the national university system. Now it is up to the government to give us a solution, or else this crisis will continue to worsen.
The Minister of Environment portfolio held by Nazir Ahmed has been taken under the purview of the President through an extraordinary Gazette notification.
The Sri Lanka Muslim Congress took legal action against Nazir Ahmed, who was a member of the party, for accepting a ministerial post outside of the party stance. Nazir Ahmed lost his parliamentary seat due to court order. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says a governance structure should consist of experts with diverse backgrounds and experiences.
The necessity to negate ill thought out policy, which we have had in recent times. Policies that have been primarily ad hoc, policies that have been basic knee-jerk reactions to emerging challenges. The governance structure should have experts, specialists, generalists. We need to have a team of people, personnel, with high acumen and higher achievement. It is important to have a team of experts, advisors, policymakers with diverse backgrounds and experiences to help formulate effective and successful policy resultants.
The opposition leader expressed these views at the workshop titled Policymaking and Governance, Navigating Geopolitical and Economic Challenges, organized by the National Council of Professionals that was held in Colombo yesterday.
The Sri Lankan team, which won the 7th place in an international robot tournament held in Singapore, returned to the island yesterday.
192 countries participated in the first global challenge, which was held from the 7th to the 10th of October in Singapore.
We took part in the first global challenge held at Singapore this year. We managed to become the 7th out of 191 countries, and it is a proud moment for our country. There will be a team representing our country next year as well, and we hope we can reach better heights next year.
The Sri Lanka Muslim Media Forum organized a discussion on the online safety bill yesterday in Colombo.
The discussion was held under the theme Impact on Online Safety Bill on Media and Public. The discussion was conducted by Professor Rohan Samarajiva.
So, in the first few weeks since this was gazetted, I think we had to focus our energies on preparing the ground for the challenge in the courts. In Sri Lanka, you have a bill, any bill can be challenged for its consistency with the Constitution, on the question of is it consistent with the Constitution. Now 17 petitions have been filed, that's quite a high number. Now there is a more sort of political policy question. What is this bill about? Because if it clears the Supreme Court, it will become the law of the land, because Parliament, they can get a majority anytime they want. What is it trying to do? What is its meaning? What are going to be its effects, and how does it affect people in journalism? But basically what happens is that any person in Sri Lanka, has to be a person in Sri Lanka, any user of internet-based communication can complain. What are the consequences of not complying with these orders? You have to look at section 25. Any person who fails to comply with the directive within 24 hours of its receipt commits an offence.
The program was attended by journalists, social media users and the general public.
Day 34 of the second leg of the LOLC Divi Savya program got underway, centering schools in the Ampara district.
In the first leg of the LOLC Divisavya program, school books and stationery items were provided to over 1,000 schools with less than 50 students. The second leg of the LOLC Divisavya program will provide school books and stationery items to schools with less than 100 students. Students will be provided school books and stationery for a period of 1 year under the program. This world initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. Students from schools including the Veeracholi Tamil Vidyalaya, Annamalai Sri Shakti Vidyalaya, Namagal Vidyalaya, Kannahi Vidyalaya, Alhira Vidyalaya and Ahadiyar Vidyalaya were gifted school books. School books and stationery items were also gifted to students at the Akkarepattu Zonal Education Office this morning. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to create a bright future for the country's student population.
The pioneer television broadcasters Sirasa TV and TNL will join hands to broadcast the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 for the audience from tomorrow.
The official television and radio broadcasting rights of the ICC Cricket World Cup belong to Sirasa TV. Sirasa TV along with TNL have joined hands to provide the audience with the opportunity to experience these matches on VHF frequencies. All matches of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 can be watched on TV1 and TNL starting tomorrow. These matches are also broadcasted on the official website www.sirasatv.lk. This year's tournament is brought closer to you with an international match analysis experience from the Stein Studios in Ratmalana and World Cup Center using Stein Grid Line Vision and Stein Steer Track Pro technologies.
New Zealand beat Bangladesh by 8 wickets in the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023. Cricket fans can now watch and listen to all the action of the World Cup via the MTV, NBC networks and the official local broadcasting rights holder of the tournament. The matches are being streamed live on www.sirasatv.lk. And with that, we have our primetime news for tonight.
For all these stories and much more, visit our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. Thank you for watching. Good night.